we ready? Welcome, everyone. We're going to call to order our city council meeting for Tuesday, March 10th. Welcome to everyone who is joining us this evening. We are going to start with a Pledge of Allegiance from Gary Davis, and then a prayer will be offered by Chris Oakleberry from the Stone Creek Stake Presidency. So we'll proceed to that point.
And repeat after me, or with me, either way. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father in heaven, we're so grateful for this, another day of life that we've had today. We're grateful for this earth we have to live on and thy wonderful, beautiful creations. We're grateful for our city of Bountiful and the abundance and joy we share here. We're grateful for the people and the community that makes it so wonderful to live in this part of the world. We're grateful to come together tonight to discuss the well-being and needs of the community. We're grateful for these wonderful public servants who work to further the goodness and to make sure that people are taken care of and the community is running well and is organized well. We pray that thou will bless us tonight, that we may have the guidance of thy Holy Spirit, that we might see the things that need to be seen and discuss the things that need to be discussed to help those businesses and individuals and parts of the community that are in need of help. We pray that thou will bless us in this community with continued strength and guidance and prosperity, that we may grow and thrive here. Again, we thank thee for all thou hast given us, and we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Chris, for offering that prayer. You're welcome to stay and join us for the rest of the meeting, but we'll understand also if you have other assignments and things you need to get to tonight. Next on the agenda is public comment. This is the time period where we invite members of the public to join us and offer any comments they might want to share. Just as a general reminder, we ask that you limit those to 2 minutes each, and that if the item is not something that is on our agenda, it may not be something we take up for discussion in this meeting, but we'll be taking notes, and if we're able to, we'll ask some of our staff to step out and assist you if it's something that we can address while we're still in the meeting. So with that, we will turn the time over to you for any comments.
Gary Davis, 2814 South, 500 West, Bountiful. Clarification, the chief mentioned 7 police departments and 3 fire agencies. North Salt Lake, West Bountiful, Woods Cross, Bountiful, Centerville, Kaysville, and Farmington Police Department are the ones that they dispatch for. The 3 fire agencies are South Davis Metro Fire, Farmington Fire Department, and Kaysville Fire Department. So it's a pretty large area that they cover. Okay, I had to write this down and wordsmith it a little bit. I missed the January 27th meeting, and it's a good thing. It disheartens me, or I would have spoke out. So many people spoke out asking for our elected officials to ignore federal laws and encouraging the young to demonize and hate those that enforce the laws that Congress has created. Yeah, I won't go any further than that. Thank you, and thank the chief and all his people and everybody else doing a wonderful job.
Thank you, Gary. Anyone else that would like to give public comment?
So on behalf of Bradley, I'm Cosette Kais, and on behalf of Bradley Badger, residing at 1518 North, 400 West in Bountiful. Bradley is completely blind. He has a guide dog to lead him around. He would appreciate auditory indicators at the following locations: Main and 10th, above Viewmont; Pages Lane, 2nd West and 10th North; and Main and 4th North. And I have those written down, so I'll just give that to you. And then in behalf of Karen Lindsay Schertz, residing at 499 North, 200 West, Bountiful, at Country Stations. It's across from the rec center, west of the rec center, and they have a huge parking problem there. And they have a complex that goes kind of around, and then in the middle, there's a big grassy spot. And they said that the grassy spot is never used, and they would like to change that from a grassy spot to parking area, because then the grass wouldn't have to be watered, so that would be good because it conserves water. And they still do have grass in front of each apartment, and there is grass in front where people would see it from the road. And so the grassy spot that they're talking about in the middle is not really seen. And it would be so useful and helpful for them to have it for parking.
Thank you so much. I know that you've been out helping our dear friend Kendall Linden with her signatures, and thanks for bringing these notes that you've received from people as you've been out and about. If you wouldn't mind handing them off, we're happy to follow up.
Thank you.
And it's lovely to see you again. You're always welcome.
Thank you. You guys are doing great.
Thanks. Anyone else that would like to offer any public comment?
I hope this is the right place to be talking about this, but, I'm here for a couple reasons.
Sorry, if you wouldn't mind giving us your name and your address. That's usually how we start public comment. Thanks.
Sorry, it's Michael Crockett. And what else did you say, ask for?
We asked for your address.
Oh, just over in Carriage Crossings here.
Okay.
So, Building 6. But I'm here for a couple reasons. First of all, Councilman Hill gave an incredible talk at state conference, and he talked about a subject that's been, for me, it feels like it's been the story of my life. People that are suffering anxiety, depression, stuff like that. He himself said he's been a struggler with the anxiety, depression for 20 years. I've been struggling with it for not nearly as long, about 12 years, but I feel like at the end of my life, that's what they're going to put on my tombstone. That he never really was able to ever overcome anxiety and depression, stuff like that. And I feel another reason I'd like to talk about just being able to make boundaries with people. People don't have boundaries nowadays. I feel like we're going into what feels like Hitler's 1933. Hitler's Germany, where people just don't have boundaries. And we know what people that don't have boundaries do. I mean, they put people in concentration camps. They gas them. And I think, that comes from, I think, fascism on both sides, from Republicans and Democrats. And, another thing I want to talk about is 12 years, depression, anxiety, that comes from, and I'm sure you're aware of it, we talk about, the awakening. The awakening, it's a common theme you see, with all the churches, including our church, LDS Church, and, different sects, religions. You'll see, tarot card readers talk about it, the awakening. Who else talks about it? And that's why it's kind of got a bad stigma, I think, is because it's, to even, talk about it or mention it, it's got a bad stigma around it and stuff like that. But yet, in our religion, you're familiar with it. Ether 8:24. It tells us commands us to awaken to our awful situation. And the situation, the secret combinations around us and stuff like that. And
Michael, thank you so much for joining us. I noticed that you came in just a little bit after we'd kind of given the announcements about public comment time.
Yeah.
So just so you're aware, we ask people to usually limit themselves to 2 minutes.
2 minutes? Okay, all right.
And so that was the timer. I'm sorry I didn't give you that heads up in advance, so I know it can be a little bit rude when it goes off. If you wouldn't mind just maybe, just so you can kind of finish your thought and conclude. And
Okay.
then, it sounds to me like maybe you've got some, fairly broad thoughts and concerns, and I'm confident that the council is happy to engage in some of those perhaps after, just so that we stick to that time limit on our public comment.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Well, yeah, like I say, I just feel like that's been the story of my life, and I don't want to be the story of my life. I want to be able to enjoy happier days where I don't feel like we're going into what feels like, Hitler's Germany, where people want to hear, their opinions coming out of their opinions coming out of our mouth. I don't like that. Since I've had my awakening is all I can. And I've leaned Republican, but now I'm just independent, and it's hard to hold down a job. And I hate playing victim, but at some point, people it just doesn't seem like people have boundaries at all. They like I say, they want to hear their opinions come out your mouth, and we know what they're capable of if that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so.
Thank you so much. I can tell that these are deeply held thoughts that you've been thinking a lot about. So,
Yeah.
Perhaps we can
Well, and it's the
engage
biggest
in
reason
these after.
I'm self-employed for the same reason I can't hold down a job, just because you find yourself in the line of fire between, I feel like the workplace is just kind of a, how do you explain it? Just kind of a microcosm of what's going on in our national politics, where
There is
retaliation everywhere.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot taking place there. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Then let's talk.
Thank you, Michael, for taking the time to join us today. Is there anyone else that would like to offer public comment? Okay, with that, we will move to the next item on our agenda, which is a consideration of the approval of the minutes from January 13th and January 27th. Has the council had an opportunity to review those minutes? And if so, is anyone prepared to make a motion?
I'm happy to make a motion, Mayor. I propose that we approve the minutes as printed.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilmember Barr, a second from Councilmember Higginson to approve the minutes of January 13th and January 27th. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Looks like those pass unanimously. Councilmember Murray, I do not see a representative from the BCYC here to give our report. Is there anything you would want to offer on behalf of the BCYC, or should we?
Yeah, I can give one quick
Okay.
update, because I know we've been getting questions on, around the Easter egg hunt. So I do have the flyer. We'll be posting that on our social pages, that on March 28th at 9 a.m. to 10:30, they will be doing the Easter egg hunt at Bountiful Town Square.
Excellent, thank you. I know that's a beloved annual event by many.
Yes.
I will hope for good weather. Thanks for that update. So now we'll move on to council reports, and before we do that, we have a new face that is joining us. So wanted to extend a welcome to David Burgoyne, who is our new finance director. So he will be the person to whom we send all of our difficult budget questions. So hopefully he is prepared and ready with the city budget and spreadsheets up. And David, do you want to take just a minute and just introduce yourself? I know that we've interacted with you in other capacities, but this is your opportunity to maybe tell us a few things we might not know about you.
So I've been with the city for 10 and a half years now. I was the assistant finance director for that time frame, and then with Galen retiring and Tyson moving up to the assistant city manager, I moved up to the finance director position. I don't have anything good that you guys don't know about me. That's my spiel.
Okay. Well, we will look forward to all of the new ways you will regale us with budget information as we head into budget season. Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll start with council reports. Let's start at this end with Councilmember Bell to switch things up.
Thank you, Mayor. I was planning on going last. I was ready to go last, but I'm ready. I just want to give a little report on the South Davis Rec Center. We had our meeting last night and just wanted to share a little information. A couple of things that are happening there that we talked about. One of which was on my mind as we were having our presentation before. They had the last week of February through the first few days of March, they had a cyber attack of sorts. It was actually not them, but one of the softwares they use, a company named Peak Software out of Sandy, who they have a product called Sportsman Web, and it's a cloud-based platform, and the South Davis Rec Center uses that to do all sorts of registrations, reservations, and some other things. And that was frozen, kind of, I guess, encrypted, some of the infrastructure, so it wasn't able to be used. And so that lasted for a number of days. And again, it wasn't anything to do with the rec center itself, but the software they were using. And there was obviously a lot of scrambling, and I think there's a couple people in here who can talk. They might, if I'm off base, I'll have them fill in a few things I miss here. But it looks like that's over, but there was no credit card data that it seems to be stolen because it was through some of the processing systems or any of the personal information. It did cause some delays in some of the sign-ups for various programs that people would have signed up for who came in, and certain deadlines had to be extended for different things. But all in all, it seems to have passed. This South Davis's, the rec center is looking at some other software now, trying to just, I think, do a little more due diligence on that to see what is out there and taking a look. But I think it felt like that things are in a good place. One of the things that I thought was really impressive about the whole event was, many of you know that Bountiful City staff provide support there. And they were especially called out in that meeting for coming to the rescue, and that would be Tyson Beck. If Tyson's still here, he was here earlier, and David Burgoyne, and then the IT staff. Tiff made a special point. They stepped in and got some of the systems working, found some workarounds while the ransom was there's a ransom on the software that the vendor ultimately probably paid to get access. But in the meantime, there were some workarounds so that we could continue on at the rec center and get people in and do things. So really, we have some wonderful people, Bountiful staff, and just really want to call out Tyson and David for their work, and the IT staff. They didn't name who that was, but I assume there was multiple people in there that helped there. So thank you, David, and just staff. But I was really impressed with that. Just a couple other things that are going on. There's some issues with the boilers over there, so a couple of the pools are going to have some boilers right now. So one of them is just all but gone out, or it's heading that way, and one's gone out. So there'll be an emergency purchase there that they're going to be doing right now. So they're going to defer some of their costs from other projects and accelerate these. The ice ribbon, the season's come to an end. It is over, and last time I reported that the chiller wouldn't come in until after. It came in the last week. It was installed and used. It was really great, and now they're going to, the opposite of winterize it, summarize it until next year. So it's been a pretty good year all in all, and they've had a couple of days that were rainy days that really impacted attendance, and one of those was probably one of the biggest days of the year, which is January 1, and so we had rain that day, and so that did not help with people coming. So it sounds like typically they expect somewhere around 600 people that day, and that didn't happen. And so anyway, but otherwise things are good there, and just wanted to mention those couple items.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it is a bummer of an ice skating season, but we'll hope for better next year.
Yep.
Councilmember Barr.
Nothing specifically to report other than, I'm not sure if she will sing her own praises, but I just would like to recognize our colleague Beth Child in all that she did to make sure the processional route for Chief Stewart's funeral was lined with flags. I know it was a team effort, but she spearheaded it, and I think
here,
it was
yeah.
really touching, not only for myself and other community members, but I think it was very impactful for Chief Stewart's family and our other first responders. So I doubt you will sing your own praises. So I will, on behalf of all of Bountiful, and just to say thank you for doing that. Again, I know it was a team effort, but you really did spearhead that, and I'm grateful for your efforts. So
Yeah, I will second that. When you throw something out and someone says, I will take the assignment and I will make it happen, and they make it happen, and it's so impactful to the community and to a grieving community, it was really nice to have that assignment just taken and filled. It was definitely noted, and at the end, I'll do a little bit of an update on, from the fire district, but thank you for taking that assignment. And now it's also your turn for an update.
Well, thank you, and I do have to deflect that and say the Jeep posse was hugely helpful in making that happen, as well as the Service Council and others in the community. Also from the Service Council, we have an upcoming concert, March 29th. This is the one of our fundraising concerts, and so a plea from Richard Watson, who heads that up, to please sell tickets, buy tickets. We need some support for that. We also have Bountiful's Got Talent coming up with auditions in mid-May, and we're excited to announce that we will be having a concert on the 4th of July, along with additional activities for America 250. The concert will be our own Bountiful Philharmonia, and that will be a wonderful event over at the park. Let's see, Planning Commission, there will be no meeting on March 17th because of caucus meetings, so thank you for, we'll postpone until next time on that. The Bountiful Davis Art Center is coming to the end of a very successful art show. They've had a lot of art sales, a lot of traffic in the art center. I think it's gone very well. And just a shout out to our 911 services, who I was hiking this morning, Mueller Park. There was someone in distress and asked us to call 911, a friend and I, and they were right there and so professional and so kind, and just seeing that that's what they do all day, and we know when we pick up that phone, they're there. Just grateful to them. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Murray.
Update on the BCYC, nothing from the sewer district, but happy to announce that mosquito season is back into effect. And I was attacked yesterday while
I was
speaking with
also
you.
attacked yesterday while
So-
talking to you.
Happy to announce?
Yeah, well, because that's, if they don't hatch, then we don't have anything to kill. So they're out. So beware.
And you're on it.
And I'm on it.
Okay, thank you.
Just don't text me every time you see one, please.
Councilmember Higginson, do you have a report? And have you been bitten by a mosquito yet?
No mosquitoes for me yet, although I have enjoyed some nice time outdoors. Our historical preservation folks are preparing, of course, for their America 250 activity. They're assembling the parts that will make that a fun activity, especially for young people. It reminded me that we as a city, of course, we've kind of thought that we would be a clearinghouse of information and publicity and coordination, but I thought it might be nice, as I drove through Santa Clara last week, if we could also have some decoration on our building and maybe on our light poles. So maybe if the council and staff would consider that possibility, we could probably get the file from Santa Clara and have our own printed up. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Richard.
Thanks.
I will start my report with a little mini 250 report.
Sweet.
I will concur that the city of Santa Clara is doing an excellent job. I'm lucky to get to serve with Councilmember Krista Hinton on the Santa Clara City Council on the league board. And so I've been following their efforts in social media. And today, Tyson and Sophia and I met to talk about our webpage and having a landing page. And Santa Clara was one of the examples we looked at for a city that seems to be doing a really great job. So it's definitely on the radar. All of the, so, you know, as we discussed last time, we have 5 different subcommittees. All of them have had a subcommittee meeting. The subcommittees, along with our co-chairs, Rhonda Perks and Jamie Dester, will be meeting this Saturday to kind of gather those reports, and then that will flow into a full group meeting the following Saturday. So we'll have essentially 250 coordination meetings happening on back-to-back Saturdays to then hopefully be ready to launch websites and social media and populate some of these things with what the subcommittees have come up with. So we're excited to do that. We do also have, in our last council meeting, we adopted a support letter to become an official city. That has been transmitted, the contract has been signed, and therefore we have received the permission to use the official files and logos so that we could print
Perfect.
banners and logos. So we'll likely ask the communications subcommittee to kind of take up kind of any outdoor advertising and additional banners and things like that. So that is my Bountiful 250 update.
Hey, Mayor, on that topic, I noticed 2 big flags out there in front of the Veterans Park. Is that us? There are 250 flags. Is that?
I believe, unless I see differently from Brock, that it is the Veterans Park Foundation bought and put up the
Okay,
flags.
yeah. I
They
like
are
them.
one of the entities that are participating in
Okay,
our,
I like them,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
they're awesome.
yes. The second update that I wanted to share is that the legislature is adjourned. Yay. And several of us spent a lot of time with the League of Cities and Towns. I would say that of those bills that we were tracking for cities, we had a fairly good session in terms of ensuring that bad bills did not pass and that good bills did pass, and those that were in between that needed work had a lot of work. I wanted to particularly mention a bill that Representative Karen Peterson was running, dealing with property tax notices and process during a truth and taxation hearing. That bill evolved quite a bit during the session and had a tremendous amount of bountiful touches into its final product. In particular, our city manager, Gary Hill, spent a significant amount of time bettering and improving that bill and working with other cities, because not all city forms of government are the same. It impacted all local governments, so school districts and counties, and so it was a very complex bill, and one that I think will be really positive for our residents in terms of ensuring that the transparency and the engagement is what it ought to be for all parties. And it was definitely improved and made better in part because of the work that Gary put into that process. And it was really noticed and appreciated by other cities, and noticed and appreciated particularly by Representative Peterson, who mentioned it several times. So thank you to Gary for all of that great work. And then my final update in terms of the fire district, as we're aware, we have been processing the tragedy and the loss of our fire chief, Greg Stewart. The fire district has put in place an interim fire chief, Deputy Chief Jeff Larson, and you know, as we move from kind of the mourning and the funeral phase, the fire board has started to move into the phase of what comes next, which is a very sad and hard phase, but in figuring out any changes that are needed to how we advertise the position, how we structure the position, all of those types of things, and figuring out a timeline that makes sense and is respectful so that the department has the support they need as they mourn a big loss, but that we're also moving forward to come up with the right process so that we can have a permanent chief in place. So that process is going to be ongoing for the next few months, and so we'll provide updates as we kind of move through that. But it'll include kind of a full examination of all of the elements so that we make sure that we have our hands on those and then can move forward with the district and making sure that that we've corrected anything that needs to be corrected. And those are my updates. So with that, we'll close the council reports and we'll move to the consideration of expenditures greater than $1,000 for February 18th and February 25th, as along with the January 2026 financial report. And it's your opportunity also to quiz our new finance director.
Mayor, I'm happy to make a motion. If there are no questions.
If there's no quizzing, we can move to a motion. Okay, sounds like we're ready.
Quizzing earlier.
Okay.
I propose that we consider expenditures greater than $1,000 paid on February 18th through the 25th of 2026, as well as the January 2026 financial report.
I'll second that.
We have a motion from Councilmember Barr and a second from Councilmember Bell. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Looks like we're going to pass unanimously. And that will take us to the next item, which is to consider approval of police laptops. And it looks like Dan Urban will be presenting.
Good evening. I
Yeah.
am pleased to represent IT Director Greg Martin to present the staff report. We recommend that you approve the purchase of 18 ruggedized laptops for the police department patrol officers. We've been working with the police because we noticed some problems with warranty repairs, downtime for the officers. They would need to come in. And so we started researching some alternatives that would provide more reliable and predictable performance on their laptops. One of the big issues that we discovered is that the movement of the laptop from the automobiles, the cars, into the office was taking a long time and problematic. They didn't have a secure mount system, and so they would leave them in their car and then need to come into a desktop computer and re-log in and pull up all of their reports, and they just expressed some concerns that it was taking too long and interfering with their job duties. So Greg worked with the police chief and lieutenants to find some ruggedized laptops that many police forces do use. This we then evaluated for weeks, various different jobs within the police department. We got input from detectives and patrol and dispatch and others involved, and they liked the ruggedized platform because they have a purpose-built mount for the vehicles so that the officers can simply click it in place, click it out when they come. Everything is still up. They walk in, they do their business in the office, and it's a much better workflow. So the impact would be hopefully a reduction in the damage caused to the mobility of the machines and the improved performance of the patrol officers daily. So we recommend that you approve the purchase of those 18 laptops. Are there any questions that I can field?
Dan, I had a question. When the officers bring their laptops into the police station to complete any work, do they have docking stations already, or will this include down the line a purchase of docking stations that are compatible with the laptop so that they can have a bigger screen and a full keyboard?
That is correct. They currently have two machines. They have a laptop and a computer, a desktop computer at their workstation. So we would be eliminating the workstation and the laptop in favor of a single laptop that would be more mobile. So yes, there will be both a mount in the car and one at the desk.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, council members?
I just wanted to say I appreciate learning a new word today.
Uh-oh.
Ruggedized?
Ruggedized.
Ruggedized, yes.
I kind of
wish
have
I
a
were.
picture in my mind of like a monster truck computer or something. Is there more to it than just being able to, yeah. Is there more to it than just being able to mount it? Is it,
What's that?
Diamond plated steel.
Oh.
yeah?
They are built to withstand falls,
Okay.
spills, rain. They include more ports so that they're more capable wherever they're taken. They have a built-in cellular connection so that the officers don't have to have a secondary device and power it up and connect to it. They liked that a lot. It has biometric built in so that officers can use their facial recognition through the camera or fingerprint recognition to assist in multi-factor authentication. So overall, they just found it much more usable.
Functional. Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the council? I'm glad you asked that. I was picturing like the iPads that you give.
The rubber?
The rubber, yeah. Yeah. Seeing no other questions, do we have anyone prepared to make a motion?
Happy to make a motion. I will make a motion that we accept staff's recommendation to purchase 18 ruggedized laptop computers from Enhanced Technologies that will come from the IT Computer Replacement Fund for $70,000, $70,006.
Second?
We have a motion from Councilmember Bell and a second from Councilmember Child. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Looks like we've got some ruggedized laptops.
Thank you.
Move on to the consideration of the Hyper software for non-emergency call taking with Chief Beeler.
Okay, we should be able to breeze right through this after the work session and very little to no questions perhaps. But just for some background for some people who weren't here earlier or anybody online who was watching, our dispatch center, as our friend Gary pointed out, we dispatch for North Salt Lake, Woods Cross, West Bountiful, Bountiful, Centerville, Farmington, Kaysville Police, along with South Davis Metro Fire, Farmington Fire, and Kaysville Fire. Over the last few years, and as I had mentioned before, for as long as I can remember, we have some staffing shortages at times, and right now is more significant than others. So the purchase of this software is in an effort to help reduce some of the call volume, stress loads, and difficulties in answering the number of calls that we do. In 2025, we received roughly 75,000 non-emergency phone calls and roughly 35,000 emergency 911 calls. So while we're receiving that many non-emergency calls, oftentimes those people are placed on hold while we're able to process the calls, and or it can interfere with answering 911 calls in a more timely manner, although our dispatchers do a great job of being able to place people on hold and get to the 911 more urgently. We've investigated different technology solutions to address some of these issues. So one of the particular vendors that we looked at was Hyper, as was previously mentioned. Hyper's software is designed to function as a virtual call taker, which relieves staffing pressures by automating a portion of the routine non-emergency phone calls to be handled by that particular software. Their calculations are that it could potentially reach 75% of that call volume, and that would be what our goal and hope would be. That automation can reduce dispatch workload, the stress, and greatly reduce the bilingual call wait times and translation delays, and provide direct data into our CAD software. Representatives from Hyper have visited our site. We've coordinated with Bountiful's IT department and the countywide DAPS IT group. Both of them have expressed, or any of the concerns that they had were relieved by Hyper being here. Hyper will provide system configuration, training, ongoing quality assurance. Bountiful retains the ownership of the data, so nothing is sold or out there into the intrawebs to be able to be used by other people. Any calls and data received are not used to train Hyper or a third-party language model, or it's only used to train Hyper and not a third-party language model. Pricing for the model, as we discussed previously, it's normally 90 cents per call. They've offered us an opportunity to be able to have pricing at 75 cents per call and do a test period of around 90 days. And if we do that 90-day period, what we pay for that 90-day period will be applied to the purchase of the overall product later. So some of the significant impacts for we estimate that the first year cost could be anywhere between $13,000 and $20,000. I think $20,000 would be on the high end. And we believe that we can absorb that cost into our department budget right now, as it was not budgeted for. There would be an increase in future budget years in that ongoing cost of the software, which we plan to discuss in this year's budget process and our meetings that we have with you. As was just mentioned, the police department has reduced some computers and some computer software costs. As Dan had just mentioned, we're not going to have desktop computers in the building, which reduced the amount of that replacement cost. So that increase in this Hyper cost could be negated by that. So there's not actually not an increase to our budget going forward potentially. Yeah, and so with that, we're respectfully asking that you approve the purchase of the software for $60,000, and I'll entertain any questions that you may have thought of since we talked earlier.
Thanks, Chief. I actually did think of two
Okay?
that I would love for you to address. The first is, if the public finds that they have challenges interfacing, it doesn't work as hoped, how will we engage that if they decide to just hang up? Like, will there be a process where Hyper will somehow log that a call came in and yet kind of wasn't completed to some conclusion?
Correct. There's an audit process that's associated with it, and even calls that we would deem successful calls, we're able to go back and look and see what the transcript was and see what the interaction was. Are they having to repeat themselves in any of the questions that were asked? Is it smoother? Are there any adjustments that we can make on our end to make it smoother? I think the more that you use it, the more that Hyper is going to be able to learn from us. And so after a period of time, obviously, if it's not working and doing what we want it to do, we have the options to be able to back out of the agreements that we have.
So will some audits in the test period be taking place both on our end and Hyper's end?
It'll probably be, we haven't discussed exactly what that looks like, so I don't want to misspeak, but I would suggest that it's probably going to be more on our end than their end. They've been super great to work with, and like I said earlier, they're really motivated to make this work. They want us as one of their customers, and so I wouldn't be surprised if they went extra to try to make sure that things are working. And if we're seeing things, anomalies on our end, to be able to reach out to them, I think they're going to be very motivated to be able to help us out.
Okay, thank you. And then the second question, it struck me that the cost for the software system versus the cost to hire additional dispatchers, assuming that we could find them and get them through training, that the cost to try the software seems like it's greatly less. But just so that we put it kind of into the public discourse, do you know offhand what a dispatcher FTE would be at, and if we were to have a more comfortable level of dispatchers to handle the calls we think would go to Hyper, what that cost for that number of FTEs would be compared to the software?
Yeah, the cost for a full-time entry-level dispatcher, if you're just talking about salary, is about $54,000. And if you're talking with salary and benefits, which is generally the number that we would like to use because that's what their true costs are, for an entry level, it's $91,000.
Okay. And then if we were to get to a more comfortable level, would that be 2 additional dispatchers or 3, or do you have a sense? If we were to
Say that
bring
again.
on additional dispatchers so that we were, they weren't spending as much time in overtime, or, that they could work a more traditional schedule?
I don't, so we're not suggesting that we reduce anybody's position. So currently, should be able to be staffed for 20 dispatchers. We believe even with this software that we will want to maintain a 20 dispatcher center. Now, in my discussions with Gary, and I think it's fair to be pointed out that if there is a system that is taking 75% of our call volume and there would be a need for a reduction, history tells us that we are always in need of a dispatcher. So it wouldn't be we're laying somebody off or letting somebody go. It would probably look like we're not going to fill a vacant position if it were to ever get to that point. Now with Farmington and Kaysville, we've never seen what full staffing looks like. So again, when we hired those 4 additional dispatchers for that period, it was always understood that we're just making a very good educated guess based upon the number of calls that we believe that we're going to be receiving from them and the workload associated with that, but that could be adjusted. So we're hoping to be able to get to a full staffing on what that looks like. Our lead dispatch supervisors they work the floor and work dispatch as a regular dispatcher, but they also have supervisory duties. And for the last year or more, they've really struggled to get some of those extra duties done, like some quality assurance and stuff like that. That's important for us to be able to do. So I don't know if I answered your question.
I think I probably asked it poorly. I was thinking, in my head, the math I was doing was, if full staff is 20, but in order to achieve a more regular balance, we needed 22 or 23, then that would be, 91,000 times 3 versus the cost of the software. That's where I was starting to think through the math. It was not so much a reduction in force, but without hyper, would we be looking at 2 or 3 additional dispatchers?
Yes, and I don't know the answer to that because we've never reached full staffing yet. And so, again, our prediction has been that 20 would be an appropriate level for us, that provided office time for the lead dispatchers to do some of their extra supervisory duties, and have some time on the floor, and have people to be able to take breaks, and you're not at minimum staffing where they can't leave the building. That's what our schedule looks like. We just haven't got there yet. I'm hopeful.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, council members?
I don't have a question, but only to reiterate again, for those who may not have tuned into the work session and who are hearing dispatchers and call centers and things of that nature, just to make it clear that this is not our 911 number, that this is specifically for non-emergency calls. Just want to make sure that anyone who's new to this meeting and didn't make the work session
Thank
is
you.
aware.
That's a helpful reminder for anyone that may want to go back in the recordings and also listen to the work session discussion. Any other questions?
This is, again, a pricing question.
Before?
So you mentioned the price is 60, we've got the 20, and you got the 3 months. I'm still missing the connections there. So say we want to do the 3 months, we have to still sign some sort of agreement. The 60,000 is for how, help me understand that.
Correct.
not
So
making the
their
connections.
contract that they sent us is for 60,000. And
What does that
So
entail? Is that
that
a year?
that would be for a year. So
But it's really based on calls,
Correct.
right? Not necessarily dollar amounts.
yes. So what I believe how they do their billing at the end of the day is at the end of the year whenever we start our contract, they know how many calls their system took. They're going to be able to tell, and they will ultimately charge based upon that. So we're probably having to put some money down, I guess, if you will, right now to get our contract in effort, whether they rebate us if we overpay or we underpay, they charge us more. I'd have to work that out specifically with them.
But kind of what happens, if the contract's approved, then we go 3 months, say you don't like the software, contract's void, we've paid 20, we might have a little bit more bill, perhaps, if we've used up more than that, and that's kind of the end.
That's how I read the contract. What my intention would be, and I think that they would be amenable to this, would be to say, we want to pay a reduced price to get us to July 1st, so that this is just how my brain works in the budget process, is to be able to have something for next year that starts in the beginning of the year. So I'm gonna ask them, can we pay a portion to get us to July 1st and then give us a bill on July 1st for the fiscal year 27?
I'm assuming our good city attorney, Brad, has read the contract, and that's your understanding of kind of what we're talking about?
He has not read it. I haven't forwarded it to him. I forwarded it to David and Tyson. They've both taken a look at it. It was pretty straightforward. There's not a ton in it, and I'm happy to share with Brad to be able to take a look at and make sure there's nothing
Sounds like
crazy in
it's
there.
mostly maybe a flat retainer that you bill against and then a true up at the conclusion.
Yes, Chief and I did discuss it. I didn't go over this as typical service agreement, not uncommon when we're dealing with a technology or a software. Kind of one of the take it or leave it, not something we really negotiate with. Based on what he described to me, I was more than okay with the terms.
And they've been great to work with as far as making other changes. So this isn't the first draft of the contract that they've given us. This is probably the third, because we wanted to add various wording to make us feel comfortable with what we were signing. So if there are things that Brad or somebody else wants to make sure is in there, I'm sure that they would be happy to word it in a way that we're comfortable with.
Any other questions? If not, is anyone prepared to make a motion?
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the purchase of non-emergency call talking software for the amount of $60,000.
Second.
That felt like a tie. We're going to go with a motion from Councilmember Murray and a second from Councilmember Higginson. Any further discussion? We'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Looks like it passes unanimously, and we will look forward to hearing how this works.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the consideration of a few different trail proposals by Brock Hill.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. Appreciate your time tonight. I do have to say thank you to Todd. He's the one that has done all the legwork on these contracts, as well as wrote the staff report, so I'll try to do it as much justice as I can. The first one is the Big Rock Hiking Trail. Just a little bit of background on the Big Rock Hiking Trail. It was originally approved in the Forest Service NEPA that we put out in 2022. We've just kind of been on hold with that. The Forest Service wanted to make sure that we had done our due diligence in doing some ecological work and some slope studies. Now that we've met the requirements of those and talked to them about possibly what the bottom portion of this trail is going to look like, they've released this trail now for us to move forward on the construction. The hold was lifted last fall and by the Forest Service, and so that helped us also move forward in the bidding process, but it also met some concerns that we've been having with the hiking community. They felt like there weren't enough trails being built by Bountiful City to meet their needs, and so this was one of the trails that we were able to bring forward to them and let them know that we are thinking about them. It is strictly a hiking-only trail. And when I say Big Rock, you guys probably know it as Elephant Rock in Mueller Park. But the Forest Service calls it Big Rock, so that's what we have to call it. The project was put out to bid using unit pricing with two schedules, one for the bottom portion of the trail because that's where the most difficult and technical construction has to take place. We have really steep slopes, as much as 100%. That's a 45-degree angle, if you're speaking in terms that's easier for me to understand. And that's going to require quite a bit of rock work, some rock walls probably up to 6 to 7, 8 feet in height, and that's just to support this slope. and the trail itself. The other portion is Schedule 2, and that's for the remainder of the trail, which is a little over 1 mile, and that can be machine-built. If you've looked at the staff report, you can see the bid breakdown there from 4 different contractors. The low bid on Schedule 1 was by Big Blue Excavation, and that's not somebody that we've worked with in the past, and so Todd kind of reached out and did his homework on Big Blue and found that they have had a lot of experience in rock work and this kind of excavation and machine work. So he felt comfortable with that. Also that came with some recommendations from those that he spoke with. On Schedule 2, Avid Trails was the low bidder there. Avid is one that we've worked with before. They built a lot of the trails there in Mueller Park, so we're very comfortable with their work. The costs of this trail will be paid for from an account for Trails Capital Projects using funds that we already have for the most part. Also, there's a possibility that we could get additional funds from the Utah Outdoor Recreation Grant. That's been very helpful for us. So the staff recommends that the City Council accept the following proposals. The proposal from Big Blue Excavation to build Schedule 1 of the Big Rock Hiking Trail project at the unit prices noted in the bid tabulation, which is estimated to be $36,475. And again, that's just the lower 250 feet of trail. And then the second proposal from Avid Trails for Schedule 2, and its unit prices and bid tabulation are at $48,119 and some cents there. So that's for the remainder 1 mile of the top portion of that trail. And I will entertain any questions you might have.
Brock, I had a question for you, because it's unusual to have the 2 different entities building. So is Avid going to be the main contractor that builds the trail and decides how to work with the flagging that's already been done, and Big Blue will just come behind to do the retaining walls, or are they literally building the first 250 feet and then Avid takes on after?
Yeah, the second half of that. So we do have a trail consultant that's going to be helping us. His name is Bob Radke, and we've used him in the past. And so Bob Radke will be working with both of those companies to make sure that they're following the flag line and following Forest Service recommendations and requirements on rock wall and all that. So they'll be working independently using our trail consultant. So that's how we'll make sure the trail gets built the way it's intended to be.
Awesome. Maybe there'll be a golden spike where they join.
Yeah, for sure.
Great. Any additional questions from the council?
Mine's just a quick financial, just because I'm learning, on this grant reimbursement fund, you mentioned it almost covers it, and this might be a question for Gary and/or David. How much is in that grant reimbursement fund? Do you happen to know?
I'm sorry, I can't quite hear you.
So just a question on the grant reimbursement fund. He had mentioned it will cover most of it. So how much is in that grant reimbursement fund that we already have? Do we know what that number is?
So in the trails amount, I don't have it off the top of my head, so I don't want to speculate. I don't think David does either.
Okay.
So, but we'll get back with you on it.
Was your question about the money we are holding, or the outdoor
No, that
adventure
we're
office?
holding. I
Okay.
mean, I'm reading the report, and it says here that there could be 30,000, but it says there's money in the capital projects grant reimbursement fund, so I'm curious, what is that amount? We don't have the 30,000 approved, so I'm just curious, what's the, we're gonna approve 91,000 here, it looks like, is what the total of those two are.
Todd and I can sit down and we can get you those numbers.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that we have between $150,000 and $200,000
Yeah, that was the question,
available
yeah.
for this project. But we checked the numbers. I just don't know what it is off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's sufficient. Just trying to.
Sorry, are you asking about the line in the report that says there's also a possibility of getting up to
Well, I was
30,000
more,
from?
focused on, just because
Okay.
Brock did a great job, but I picked up, he said this will cover most of it, so I thought, well, what won't it cover? And I think it'll probably cover all of it, and then we could get some grant money back, is what I'm understanding. So, thank you.
Yeah, so there was,
Sorry about that, Brock.
no, you're good. There was some money left over from the original bond that was passed. When was the bond passed, Gary? A few years ago, right?
2020?
And there's money left in that bond. There's money in our RAP grant monies that's available to us, but then there's also this outdoor rec money that's available to us. And we can get you those numbers just to answer your question better.
I have a quick question, if I may.
ahead.
Speaking of grants, I'm just curious I know we haven't gotten to the Holbrook Trails construction yet, but with that and Big Rock, are both grants mentioned through Utah Outdoor Recreation, their grant program? Is it one grant for all of the trails?
Utah Outdoor Recreation has gotten really aggressive with the way that they're making grant monies available to cities, and so it's divided up into different pots, and so some is for trail planning and trail design and those kinds of things. The other is for construction, and so we're kind of using both funds, and so because I didn't write this, I'm not certain what he's talking about, but Utah Outdoor Recreation has been very aggressive, and we've already been awarded monies from them for both design and construction. So without speaking too intelligently, I'm assuming that's where he's gathering those dollars.
So it is essentially two different grants?
Yeah. Yeah.
But through one entity?
Correct.
Thanks.
Also, in our RAP tax grant that was just reauthorized by the voters, we have money, 10% of those monies that's collected from tax dollars in Bountiful is also part of that pot that we're drawing from also.
Thank you.
Any other questions? And just so everyone's clear, we are right now presenting on item 10, and we'll come back to 9. So if you're following on your agenda. Is anyone ready with a motion?
I'm happy to make a motion.
Let's,
I propose that we approve the proposals for the Big Rock Trails construction project and award the first to Big Blue Excavation for Schedule 1 in the total amount of $36,475, as well as Avid Trails for Schedule 2 in the amount of $48,119.
do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Barr and a second from Councilmember Higginson to approve the proposals for the Big Rock Trail construction project. Any further discussion? Seeing,
Mayor,
yes?
just so that you're aware, we are waiting for the Forest Service to give approval to start the construction of this. Now that you've approved this, thank you. But the construction can't happen in Mueller Park until we have approvals from the Forest Service to proceed because of the goshawk nesting and habitat that's prevalent in Mueller Park. And that usually, they don't clear that until after June, July-ish. It just depends on when their biologist gives us the go-ahead. So just to set expectations, that's about when we'll start seeing activity up there.
Thank you, Brock. That'll probably be a great piece of information to set expectations. Do you anticipate, given the later start in the trail building season, that it'll still be completed by the end of the trail building in 25 or 26?
We do. They've both companies committed to that, even though they know that they're going to have a later start.
Thank you. And I don't know if we completed the vote, so all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thanks. Okay, now we'll go back one item, and these are the trails in Holbrook Canyon.
Again, thanks to Todd doing all the work for me. This is about 15 miles of trail that we've already built up on the ridge above the temple. So Holbrook Canyon, when we speak of Holbrook Canyon, we're talking kind of that mountain right there behind us. And we've already got 15 miles built, including a portion of the Bountiful Shoreline Trail. And they're being used. We have lots of folks up there. They're just hard to get to. So these two trails are going to help us access that portion of the mountain And hopefully our intent there is to relieve some of the pressure off of Mueller and some of the pressure that we're seeing on other trails. Both of these trails are part of our Trails Master Implementation Plan, and which will connect the existing Holbrook trailhead right there, that little piece of asphalt just south of the temple, to the trails that are up on the mountain already, and give folks a lot better access. One trail is designed preferred climbing, so it's a preferred up. Although it's going to be bi-directional, the preference is that they use this trail to climb and access the trails. The other trail is a preferred down. Again, it's still bi-directional, but we're going to try to help people understand that the preferred way down is the other trail. And that's just to help relieve some conflict and between all the users, because they are multi-use trails. The trails do go through U.S. Forest Service property, although it does access our own. We still have to cross their property to get there, and so that's been part of the hangup. And we're in the process right now of going through the NEPA application with those folks. We anticipate that that's going to come in the next month or two, so that's why we're bringing this to you now, is to get this approved and ready to go. As soon as we get approval, we can jump on these two trails also. Specifically, the project scope is to construct the Kinglet, Trail 501. If you're familiar with our map, it's Trail 501, and the Fool's Gold Trail, which is 502. Both trails are multi-use bi-directional, but like we said before, one's going to be a preferred up and a preferred down. We had four companies provide bids for us. You can see them there in the bid tabulation. Forefront General Contracting, we don't know about. We don't know who that is. Todd tried to find out more information about that, and it was scarce at best. And they didn't fully submit a completed estimate either, so they were discounted. Dirt Tech was the low bid, setting aside Forefront General. Their bid was $229,883. They do specialize in trails construction and have vast experience, including this type of trail and working on U.S. Forest Service, so that's a good thing for us. The cost will be paid from an account for trails capital projects using RAP tax funds. We talked about that already. And due to funding constraints, the schedule is to construct the Kinglet Trail in 2026 and then Fool's Gold in 2027. Again, if money comes available to us through the Utah Outdoor Recreation Program and the grants that are available to us there, we think that we can get both of those trails built this year also. But we anticipate just Kinglet. We'll do that one first. Staff recommends that the City Council accept the proposal from Dirt Tech Trails to build the Holbrook Trail project at the unit prices noted in the bid tabulation, estimated at $229,883. And I'll entertain any questions you might have.
Mayor, can you clarify something? Because you know this land so well. I saw an email from Todd responding to an email that was asked by one of the council, by Councilwoman Barr, and it had to do with the original trail, the original Holbrook Trail, I think. That's the OG trail, as you call it, the OG.
Yeah, Original Gangster Trail.
I know what it
Yeah,
means.
that's what it stands for.
Yeah, I figured. Is that trail then, right now, designated hoof and boots only? Because there was, what you said and what I've understood is different from, I'm just curious, because we've got these two new trails, which will be bike, multi-use.
Sure, I'll start, and then, of course, staff. So, in particular, for those that are newer to the council.
That's me.
Not just you. We definitely had some discussions, played out kind of over a year and a half, about groups that wanted to make sure that that there were some places that were preserved for hoof and boot, which is our shorthand for horseback and hiking, and so we worked on a request and a coordination with the Forest Service. These are Forest Service original trails. That's why I call them the OG trails. Kenny Creek is one of those. Holbrook Trail in the, down by the creek, that's an original trail. And then a new trail would be the Big Rock Trail, to make sure that the community was aware of those, as hoof and boot only trails. I think there was probably an argument to be made that Holbrook had long been a multi-use trail because it was the only thing there. And because we built Twist and Shout and Shoot to Thrill and Bellevue, there wasn't a lot of great ways to get down from those trails. And so for the first time ever, I biked down the Holbrook Trail, which was not a great experience, in which I have never repeated because it was not very much fun to do, especially with the number of kind of washout bridge crossings. But for a time, that was one of the only exits available for that system. So it kind of needed to stay until these trails could catch up to it. So now with these moving forward, it allows that one to meet that commitment and that arrangement with the Forest Service. Would that be fair, Brock?
That's correct. And the bottom of Holbrook, the trail, the original Holbrook Trail, it actually came, the recommendation actually came to make it hoof and boot only was from the Forest Service. Because they've received enough pressure at their offices about that. And if we're using our new term, ruggedized. Ruggedized bikers are about the only ones that can do that trail. I've tried and I wound up packing mine most of the time. But that recommendation came from the Forest Service. And so we feel strongly that that's the way it's gonna go, that's the way it should be. And we're trying to develop a signage package that helps folks understand that. Guide them up the new trails that'll be the preferred climbing and keep them off the Holbrook.
And I think I'd add too that it's really important in trail systems that you create loops and redundancy. So, you're spreading people out, but you're also giving, by the way you design, the way you design the system, but also the way you design the trail, you're pointing certain users. You're this type of user, you'll have a great experience going this way. You're this other type of user, you'll have a great experience going this way. There may be some portion that you're sharing, but you can both have the experience you're looking for with your outdoor recreation by the way we're picking pieces of that system. The other thing I'd point out, I'm confident that many of you have done the kind of unofficial straight up from the Holbrook parking lot. It's really not fun in any format. It's a super duper calf burner if you're hiking it. If you try to come down, it's hard not to just slip. If you're hoping to access via bike those trails that we've built, hefting your bike up that steep grade is not a fun experience either. It's really not fun if you're coming down and you're connected to a dog who wants to go fast down. And so I had the opportunity, our contractor for flagging needed someone to shoot the laser off their shoulder as they flagged Kinglet. And so I was available one day and volunteered to do that. And so I just followed our trail designer around and stood there so that she could bounce the laser off my shoulder. She flagged it, and working our way up in the switchbacks that Kinglet will have. I mean, it was a hot, long day to do that, but I was so excited to think about these switchbacks that would replace that really awful straight up grade. So that's part of how you divert people from attempting Holbrook via bike, is to create this other opportunity. So there you go, extra commentary. Any additional questions about Kinglet or Fool's Gold?
I'd be happy to make a motion.
I think we're ready.
All right, motion to accept the proposal from Dirt Trek Trails to build the Holbrook Trails project at the unit prices noted in the bid tabulation.
Second.
Is that, okay, I wasn't, there was like a soft echo over there on the second. So we have a motion from Councilmember Child, and a second from Councilmember Murray. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I think we are unanimous.
Thank you.
Moving back into the order, for item 11 is consider approval of the land use code text amendments for change of use and site plan approval from Francisco Astorga.
Thank you. I don't know how there it is. This is a city-initiated land use code text amendment in which it's fully recommended and supported by staff. The Planning Commission would say the exact same thing, and so would you, in that we've looked at several site plans over the years where we asked the question, why are we doing this? So in that, from time to, the code indicates that site plan approval shall be required for any new construction or change in use in the commercial zone. Whoa, that's going funky. Whoa. Anyways, that's what the code says. So a new construction, no brainer. We go ahead and go through the process. Changing use, the code didn't specify it. So in looking, this is the new process. This is exactly what happened. We had a vehicle parts store that the tenant turned over, and it went to a bike shop. Because the vehicle parts was a listed use, bike shop wasn't, it was retail, they went through the process. So what we did, we came up with criteria where we would remain the current process. That's the arrow in green with the site plan review required with the Planning Commission and the City Council. If there's new construction that increases square footage, in essence, if they're just remodeling or changing the material along the front, it wouldn't qualify as such. The second one is a change in use increasing parking by 20%. We borrowed the 20% from UDOT policies. And then the third one is a little bit of a catch-all, change in use, altering the site. We want to be able to have the opportunity to bring these up to the Planning Commission and the City Council should there be any past requirement for buffering, should the site change its driveway access and location and whatnot. And we felt that it was appropriate to have a little bit of a don't go through staff, but have the opportunity to go through the Planning Commission and City Council. So if the new site plan applications do not need to go through 1, 2, or 3, we would review that internally. That's me, Amber, and Chaz. I didn't have time to place Wendy or Rachel on here, and this is supposed to be you guys, by the way.
That's an impressive graphic. We were all just admiring it.
Oh, I like the guy's mustache. That was really good.
Yeah, I think Dan has a mustache on this one too. But anyways, not to focus on the AI graphic, I'll be more than happy to have any questions. The Planning Commission, they've been very vocal in the past 3 years. Why are we doing this? Why are we this? You could handle this internally. Where if a business license came through for a new use and it was a permitted use, not conditional, we're not changing the code there. And if the parking is comparable, if the use is comparable, and we recommend some standards here, we want to be able to handle that either through that tenant improvement, through that building permit that they need to have, or through that business license review. So the process is still there. We just don't want it to go through Planning Commission and City Council. This is a legislative item, so this is completely up to you. The Planning Commission did review this item 3 weeks ago, where they afforded a positive recommendation. It was a 5-0 vote. I believe Councilmember Child was there. I'll be more than happy to answer any other questions that you might have for staff.
Council members, any questions about this
Just
item?
on the change in use altering the site, you referenced like if they wanted to change the drive entrance and all that, but if they were to do any landscape changes and all that, that doesn't.
No, and that's why I called that one on their staff review on the presentation, minor site improvements, not necessarily altering the site. If they wanted to change some landscaping here and there, it would be great if they came in to check in with us to make sure that they can go ahead and do it. They wouldn't need a permit. It would give them a thumbs up and a copy of the code and say, you're ready to go.
Any other questions, council members? Seeing none, I know this is a policy we've talked about before. Are we ready for action?
Is there usually a fee
For a site plan?
for a site plan?
Yes, there is.
So if it goes to staff review, there's still a fee.
No, we wouldn't have the fee.
So,
we,
okay.
we wouldn't have the fee. It would be more appropriate if we were to update our fee schedule, and we'll do that through the annual budget process coming up. Just so we have clarification in that a site plan review is part of a typical building permit review.
Yeah.
So there is a fee. It's a completely different fee in that the fee I have in my fee schedule is intended for the full-blown planning commission, city council site plan review.
And I'm not proposing that that would be.
You just
Yeah,
want to
because
clarify.
I know just in the last two that we've had, that doing an additional review was an additional cost, and that was making it tighter for them on some things, but I think this is good. Okay.
I'm, just for curiosity's sake, curious to know how many site plan requests do you get a year, do you think?
Oh, I haven't looked at, I gave Gary the numbers back in December. I just don't know them off the top of my head here. We do a fair amount. We probably do one every 3 months, maybe more. These are the most notable that we've looked at in the past years. It's not all of them, but Richard, who was on the planning commission, can recall him complaining about, why are we going through all of these at that same time? I
Don't remember ever
apologize.
complaining.
None whatsoever. I don't have the number. Maybe it's more. Maybe Lori can help me. Maybe it's one every other month.
Okay.
I don't know. But it does seem like it's unnecessary. Even from staff, we don't get paid by the number of site plans that we process, so it's all the same to us. It just seems a little unnecessary.
Well, if it makes Richard's life easier,
Well,
then I'm
it
all
would be
for it.
Beth, because she's on the commission now.
I'd say
Oh,
this is something that came up during our general plan discussions that we kind of identified as a challenge and asked to come, kind of as soon as we finish that process with the general plan, that this could be another item. And over the last year, we've had a handful that came for that review and approval at council where it didn't seem like it needed us.
And Mayor, I don't think you're going to make anybody upset with this new policy change. No one ever said, oh, I want to go through this process just for kicks.
No, I'm confident there's a few pending that will be happy.
Right?
I'm happy to make a motion.
I think we're ready. Go for it.
I propose that we approve the land use code text amendment, change of use site plan approval as printed.
We have a second. We have a motion from Councilmember Barr, a second from Councilmember Murray. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Looks like we have adopted that change.
Mayor, a hearty thanks to our planning department as well for getting this taken care of.
Yes, I concur. It was definitely something we asked you.
I think it was Brad Jepson with Amber Corbridge that did most of the research here, to be honest with you. So,
Well, will you pass on our thanks to Amber, and since Brad's here, we'll thank Brad too. Next item on our agenda is approval of an interlocal agreement for highway or public transit project reimbursements from Davis County.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm excited for the opportunity to talk about this little bit of funding that we've received from the county. About a year ago, with Gary's support, I submitted an application for some enhanced pedestrian crossings at some locations that I get frequent comments from pedestrians about how difficult it is to cross the road. And I'm sure that you've traveled these corridors as well, and you know how busy 4th North and 5th South are. At the top of page 58, I've tried to give you a sense of what these enhanced crossings look like. They have a set of signs and flashing beacons that are called rectangular rapid flashing beacons. So as the pedestrian reaches the ramp, they push the button, those two rectangular LED lights on either side begin to flash, and they're pretty bright, and they do grab your attention right away. Now, this picture shows some lighting going across the road. That won't be included in our crossings because we happen to have some snow removal equipment that'll make short work of those particular little elements. But we will have a nice signed crossing that will be much safer for pedestrians. Just by way of a summary of the funding, I was able to submit an estimate for each of the 3 locations, and I won't be shy in saying that those are full of all the good things in life, cream and sugar and all the extra room that we would need for constructing these. I didn't want to leave us in a pinch and wishing that we had more budget money that we needed to construct these. I gave a very generous estimate, which was accepted by the county, and I think that we have plenty of room in there to build each of these locations. These were discussed at the Traffic Safety Committee meeting last week, and there is a paragraph later in the staff report about the discussion, but for just a moment, I'd like to talk about the 4th North and 2nd East crossing. That'll be constructed on the west side of the intersection where the crossing currently is. It's on page 58 at the bottom. But we will make some modifications to that left turn island. So that would eliminate the left turn for eastbound traffic headed northbound on 2nd East. There is quite a bit of access into that neighborhood. If you needed to access that neighborhood, you could, and you were eastbound on 400 North, you could continue around Main Street and take the very first right and be just within a block of this intersection in a very short time. As you go east on 400 North, there are other opportunities to turn left to get into the neighborhood. This is going to be a little bit unique in that it's going to have a fairly large, just concrete flatwork area to keep our visibility good. This is particularly important, I think, for the reason that the distance across the intersection is long, and it's going to take pedestrians a little while to get from one side to the other. Having a place for them to stop and to be able to assess, is the oncoming traffic going to stop for me? Do they see me? Do they know I'm here? And give them a chance to push that button again if they need to, I think will be very important. The only other place in town where we have something similar is at the roundabout at 1500 South. And as I've watched people use that, I see people stop in the middle of those islands frequently just because that's a complex intersection too, and people really need to be on their toes as they go through that. So basically the Traffic Safety Committee agreed that this would be a good proposal for this crossing. And as we moved our discussion to the crossings on 500 South, it was a fairly vigorous discussion about traffic flow and pickup at the junior high. And I appreciate the experience of our council members on the Traffic Safety Committee and how they have personally used the streets to pick up their own kids, and they know their neighbors' habits of how to get around in the neighborhood. And so the suggestion was made to eliminate the pedestrian refuge islands at both of those crossings on 500 South. And the committee voted to support that motion, and I think that's a good thing to do. The crossing is significantly shorter than it is on 400 North, and the visibility is good, and it is very important to preserve those left turn movements at both of those intersections. So the yellow hatched areas that you see in the enlarged photos on page 60 and 61, those wouldn't be a part of the proposed construction. It would just continue as the existing left turn lanes, and the pedestrians should be in good shape as they cross both of those intersections. The location of the crossings on both First East and Second East were also widely discussed. The location at Second East mirrors the existing crossing location, so everyone is used to crossing that intersection there. And the decision to place it on the east side of the intersection at First East provides a nice continuous path to the junior high and also to City Hall and with the library campus. You know, it's a lot easier to cross 100 East, or on the south side of the intersection than to have to cross 5th South on the other side to get to the other side of the street to come down here to our area. I have not passed the agreement itself to our council, but after reading it myself, I didn't see anything was particularly concerning about this. The county's generous in giving us until June of 2029 to complete the work. And we'll be budgeting, we anticipate budgeting this work in the FY 2027 budget year. So we'll get started on this after July if the new budget's approved. Be happy to answer any other questions you have.
Do you know which quarter the funds come from? Of the, is this, I'm assuming this is like county fourth quarter?
Yes.
And is this like the first time we've ever managed to get fourth quarter funding?
Yes.
That's great.
For a tiny little piece of the pie.
I think it's really great that you went after these grants. I think it's great that we finally got some fourth quarter funding too.
I know a former PTA president at Mill Creek that's going to be really excited to see an improvement at that crosswalk.
I think if we were to ask everyone up here to raise their hand if they've ever had scary experience at those intersections, we would all raise our hands. Yeah.
So-
Any additional questions?
I do have a question. So we had a request today for audio, I guess. Will that be included in the project?
None of those locations correspond with this particular project. I would point out that 2 of those intersections that were brought up during public comment are UDOT intersections, so we'll pass those comments on to Region 1, and we'll investigate the other 2 that are city signals and what it'll take to upgrade that pedestrian hardware.
So would it be possible to add that to these?
The audible piece, these should have an audible component to them.
Okay, so that's included in the project? Great, thank you.
Lloyd, with not doing the islands changes on 5th South, was that going to be concrete or just like paint striping?
They were going to be concrete.
So if the recommendation is to not do that, do we still get the same amount of money? And is there an additional crossing that we could do some work on? Or does the county just reduce our award?
I believe the county would just reduce our award because it is based on the scope of these 3 crossings. I don't believe they'll have any heartburn about us scaling back that one component, the pedestrian refuge islands.
But we will nevertheless see if we can retain the same amount and then repurpose it if they'll let us.
If they'll let us.
I frequent a little weird refuge island on 4th North and Orchard each morning. But there were leftover funds. That one is an interesting intersection to cross at too, at 4th North and Orchard across from Flourishing Grace.
Might be a little bit of a challenge to do some of that, with it being a signalized intersection. But we'll take a look at it.
Mayor, just wanted to express appreciation again to Lloyd for his work and any staff that spent time with the grants, and it was a really good discussion in our committee. And also call out our mobile suburban councilwoman who is a frequent user of these streets to give us some pretty good insights. And so it was a good discussion, really trying not to lose those left turns where there's a lot of traffic and a lot of junior high kids and moms and dads heading that way to pick up kids. So anyway, thank you, Lloyd, and thanks, Councilwoman Barr.
Any other questions or feedback?
Only to say, on my frequent drive to Fizz, just the other day, I saw a pedestrian crossing. I would have taken a picture, but then that probably would have not been very safe. But he was kind of stuck on 4th North, right where we are proposing an island. So, and he was crossing at 2nd East, and I just thought to myself, oh, this would make Lloyd happy if that refuge island was there. So I think these are great additions, and I just echo everyone else in the gratitude and your proactiveness in going after these grants. So I think it will be great, and thank you for your flexibility when those concerns were raised. It was a great discussion.
Nice.
I'm happy to make a motion.
I think we're ready for a motion if you're ready.
Sorry, I've made too many motions tonight. I propose that we approve the interlocal cooperation agreement for highways or public transit project reimbursement from Davis County.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Barr and a second from Councilmember Child. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So excited that we're going to have these projects.
Is this de-ruggedizing the road?
In some ways, we're like ruggedizing the signals, but like de-ruggedizing the crossing experience. We have, council members, one final motion, and I see that our legal counsel has our fabulous, I don't know what to call that, rotator of random.
Randomizer.
Randomizer,
Yeah,
a rugged
a
randomizer.
ruggedized randomizer.
And I believe that when anyone is willing to make this motion, we need to probably make it so that we intend at the end to adjourn and not return.
Mayor, I'd be happy to make a motion that we adjourn to closed session to discuss the sale of real property pending litigation or to discuss the character and/or competence of an individual. A meeting from which we will adjourn into the nether regions. Without further ado.
And not return? Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We'll turn to our city attorney to call for that vote.
Councilmember Higginson.
Aye.
Councilmember Barr.
Aye.
Councilmember Child.
Aye.
Councilmember Murray.
Aye.
There's only one left.
And Councilmember Bell.
Aye.
Thank you. We will adjourn to the closed session.